Hi, boys and girls. I'm Bob Weide, and this is Trailers from Hell. We're going to look at a trailer for the 1974 film Lenny, directed by Bob Fosse. I've made a number of documentaries over the years, the subjects of which have all been artists that I've admired since my teens or earlier. And I did have an obsession with comedian Lenny Bruce through high school and college, which culminated in my 1998 documentary, Lenny Bruce, Swear to Tell the Truth. Since I was 7 years old when Lenny died in 1966, I've been asked a lot how my interest in him started. Well, it started with this film, which came out when I was 15. Artistically, it's a hugely satisfying film to me. It's riveting, it's thought-provoking, it's funny, sexy, and tragic. It's directed by Bob Fosse, so how wrong can you go? But it knocked my socks off as a teenager, and I had to go out and buy all of Lenny Bruce's records, read all the biographies. I started doing my own research. I was meeting people who were close to Lenny. I would say, along with Mort Sahl, Lenny has had the greatest influence on modern stand-up comedy since the inception of the art form. But he was ahead of his time, and his life was certainly turbulent, making it perfect biopic fodder. And Bob Fosse does it justice. So here's the trailer.
This is the true story of a man who became known as the conscience of America. Names, places, and court records depicted are all authentic. It is ironic that he was prosecuted and persecuted for acts and language which have become a part of today's life.
The film actually starts out in the late 50s when Lenny was doing all the same shtick as other comedians, innocuous jokes and impressions of movie stars. And it tracks his career path as an MC in strip joints, where he started using racier material. He'd eventually find his voice as a social satirist and political humorist. His popularity grew, and that's when he started to get into trouble. Lenny did use so-called four-letter words in his act, but, so did a lot of other comedians. And it was rarely gratuitous. It was always in context. And he was arrested numerous times for obscenity, but only because blasphemy isn't illegal. He was stepping on too many toes, including those of the Catholic Church. And in the early 60s, this was not a good way to win friends and influence people. Eventually, he'd spend more time in court than on stage, and he'd die of a drug overdose in 1966, assuring his transition from iconoclast to icon. The screenplay for Lenny is written by Julian Barry, who adapted his own Broadway stage version, which preceded the film by a few years. And Bob Fosse is the perfect choice to direct. There are no song and dance numbers, but you do get that Fosse motif of showbiz glitz overlaying something quite dark and sinister. I've always loved the shots from behind Dustin Hoffman on stage, silhouetted by the spotlight, which was also used by Fosse to great effect with Liza Minnelli in Cabaret. I think Fosse being at the helm is the primary reason this film succeeds so well, at least to me. It was only his third feature, followed only by two more prior to his death in 1987. And Fosse's vision is perfectly complemented by the gritty yet beautiful black and white cinematography of Bruce Surtees. Some die-hard Bruce fans have actually criticized Hoffman's performance for not perfectly capturing Bruce's stage persona and very specific comic rhythm, but I find Hoffman's performance engaging and believable. It's not a precise imitation of Bruce's actual delivery, but also face it, he's a movie star, and you got to get your film financed before you can get it made. But I find Hoffman a plus, not a minus. The voluptuous and talented Valerie Perrine turns in a tour de force performance as Bruce's wife, Honey. I knew the actual Honey Bruce very well, and I can tell you Perrine is spot on in this really, challenging role. I was also very close with Lenny's mother, Sally Marr, and her essence is also perfectly captured here by actress Jan Miner, whom baby boomers will remember as Madge, the manicurist from those old Palmolive commercials. You're soaking in it. And as I speak, the 50th anniversary of Lenny Bruce's death is a week away. Every current comedian who points out hypocrisy in politics, religion, or human relationships owes a debt of gratitude to Lenny Bruce. And whether you're already a fan of Bruce's or know nothing about stand-up pre-Louis C.K., consider Bob Fosse's Lenny a must-see, as relevant today as it was more than 40 years ago.